The Cadaver Synod is the name commonly given to the posthumous ecclesiastical trial of Pope Formosus, held in the Basilica of St. John Lateran in Rome during January of 897. The trial was conducted by the successor, Pope Stephen VII, to Formosus's successor, Pope Boniface VI.Stephen, accused Formosus of perjury and of having acceded to the papacy illegally. At the end of the trial, Formosus was pronounced guilty and his papacy retroactively declared null. Remote context. The Cadaver Synod and related events took place during a period of political instability in Italy. This period, which lasted from the middle of the 9th century to the middle of the 10th century, was marked by a rapid succession of pontiffs. Often, these brief papal reigns were the result of the political machinations of local Roman factions, about which few sources survive. Formosus became Bishop of Porto in 864 during the pontificate of Pope Nicholas I. He carried out missionary activity among the Bulgarians, and was so successful that they requested him for the bishop. Nicholas refused his permission, because an appointment in Bulgaria would require Formosus to leave his see in Porto, and the 15th canon of the Second Council of Nicaea forbade a bishop to leave his own see to administer another. In 875, shortly after Charles the Bold's imperial coronation, Formosus fled Rome in fear of then Pope John VIII. A few months later, in 876, out of synod in Santa Maria Rotunda, John VIII issued a series of accusations against Formosus and some of his associates. He asserted that Formosus had corrupted the mind of the Bulgarians, so that, so long as was alive, would not accept any other bishop from the apostolic see, that he and his fellow conspirators had attempted to usurp the papacy from John, and finally that he had deserted his see in Porto and was conspiring against the salvation of the state and of our beloved Charles. Formosus and his associates were excommunicated. In 878, at another council held at Troyes, John may have confirmed the excommunications. He also legislated more generally against those who plunder ecclesiastical goods. According to the 10th century author Auxilius of Naples, Formosus was also present at this council. Auxilius says he begged the bishops for the forgiveness, and in return for the lifting of the excommunication, swore an oath to remain a layman for the rest of his life, to never again enter Rome, and to make no attempts to reassume his former see at Porto. This story is doubtful. Another description of the synod does not mention Formosus's presence and says instead that John confirmed his excommunication. After the death of John VIII in December 882, Formosus's troubles ended. He resumed his bishopric at Porto, where he remained until elected pope on 6 October 891. Yet this earlier quarrel with John VIII formed the basis of the accusations made at the Cadaver Synod. According to the 10th century historian Liutprand of Cremona, Stephen VII asked Formosus's corpse why he usurped the universal Roman see in such a spirit of ambition after the death of John VIII, echoing John VIII's own assertion that Formosus had tried to seize the papal throne while he was alive. Two further accusations were also made against Formosus at the Cadaver Synod: that he had committed perjury, and that he had attempted to exercise the office of bishop as a layman. These are related to the oath Formosus is said to have sworn before the council at Troyes in 878. Immediate context. The Cadaver Synod is generally presumed to have been politically motivated. Formosus crowned Lambert of Spoleto co-ruler of the Holy Roman Empire in 892. Lambert's father, Guy III of Spoleto, had earlier been crowned by John VIII. In 893, Formosus, apparently nervous about Guy's aggression, invited the Carolingian Arnulf of Carinthia to invade Italy and receive the imperial crown. Arnulf's invasion failed, and Guy III died shortly afterwards. Yet Formosus renewed his invitation to Arnulf in 895, and early the next year Arnulf crossed the Alps and entered Rome, where Formosus crowned him as Holy Roman Emperor. Afterwards the Frankish army departed, and Arnulf and Formosus died within months of each other in 896. Formosus was succeeded by Pope Boniface VI, who himself died 2 weeks later. Lambert and his mother, the Empress Angeltrude, entered Rome around the time that Stephen VII became Pope, and the Cadaver Synod was conducted directly afterwards, at the beginning of 897. The dominant interpretation of these events until the early 20th century was straightforward. Formosus had always been a pro-Carolingian, and his crowning of Lambert in 892 was coerced, after the death of Arnulf and the collapse of Carolingian authority in Rome. Lambert entered the city and forced Stephen to convene a Cadaver Synod, both to reassert his claim to the imperial crown, and perhaps also to exact posthumous revenge upon Formosus. This view is now considered obsolete, following the arguments put forth by Joseph Duhr in 1932. Duhr pointed out that Lambert was in attendance at the Ravenna Council of 898, convened under John IX. It was at this proceeding that the decrees of the Cadaver Synod were revoked. According to the written acta of the council, Lambert actively approved of the nullification. If Lambert and Angeltrude had been the architects of Formosus's degradation, Duhr asked, how was John IX able to submit to the canons which condemned the odious synod for approbation of the emperor and his bishops? How could John IX have dared to broach the matter before the guilty parties, without even making the least allusion to the emperor's participation? Quote, this position has been accepted by another scholar. Girolamo Arnaldi argued Formosus did not pursue an exclusively pro-Carolingian policy, and that he even had friendly relations with Lambert as late as 895. The relations only soured when Lambert's cousin, Guy IV, marched on Benevento and expelled the Byzantines there. Formosus panicked at the aggression and sent emissaries into Bavaria seeking Arnulf's help. Arnaldi argues that it was Guy IV who had entered Rome along with Lambert and his mother Angeltrude in January 897, who provided the impetus for the synod. The synod, probably around January 897, Stephen VII ordered that the corpse of his predecessor Formosus be removed from its tomb and brought to the papal court for judgment. With the corpse propped up on a throne, a deacon was appointed to answer for the deceased pontiff. Formosus was accused of transmigrating sees in violation of canon law, of perjury, and of serving as a bishop while actually a layman. Eventually, the corpse was found guilty. Liutprand and other sources say that, after having the corpse stripped of its papal vestments, Stephen then cut off the 3 fingers of the right hand that it had used in life for blessings, next formally invalidating all of Formosus's acts and ordinations. The body was finally interred in a graveyard for foreigners, only to be dug up once again, tied to weights, and cast into the Tiber River. According to Liutprand's version of the story, Stephen VII said, "When you were Bishop of Porto, why did you usurp the universal Roman see in such a spirit of ambition?" Aftermath. The macabre spectacle turned public opinion in Rome against Stephen. Rumors circulated that Formosus's body, after washing up on the banks of the Tiber, had begun to perform miracles. A public uprising led to Stephen being deposed and imprisoned. While in prison, in July or August 897, he was strangled. In December 897, Pope Theodore II convened a synod that annulled the Cadaver Synod, rehabilitated Formosus, and ordered that his body, which had been recovered from the Tiber, be reburied in St. Peter's Basilica in pontifical vestments. In 898, John IX also nullified the Cadaver Synod, convening two synods which confirmed the findings of Theodore II Synod, ordered the acta of the Cadaver Synod destroyed, and prohibited any future trial of a dead person. However, Pope Sergius III, who as bishop had taken part in the Cadaver Synod as a co-judge, overturned the rulings of Theodore II and John IX, reaffirming Formosus's conviction, and had a laudatory epitaph inscribed on the tomb of Stephen VII.